Aloha, faithful. Welcome to another edition of Niner Island. I'm your co-host, Coop.
No, what the fuck I mean is Niner Malik, baby. Chee-hoo!
Tell them. Let them know.
Yeah,
All right.
Let's go.
So we are doing another Did You Catch That game? Obviously, we're 2 weeks into the season now, so we're going to go ahead and recap the first two games of the season. Obviously, you can see we're doing a little split screen action today. Due to this pandemic and offices being closed and having no work, I was able to actually go and spend some time back in the Bay. So I'm here with y'all right now in the Bay. Malik is still in Honolulu, Oahu at the crib. I will be back there shortly, but we definitely didn't want to leave y'all hanging while we were apart. So thank you, technology. We're getting this knocked out the way it is. So what we're going to do is to streamline this a little bit, we're just going to kind of tell you how we felt about the game, give you two good things that we took away from the game, two bad things that we took away from the game, and move on. Call it a day. Drink a little more PBR, maybe some whiskey.
Bam. Hey,
you know,
PBR, send us a bag, son. Y'all see how we doing, y'all?
All right, game one, Niners-Cardinals. Overall, it felt like a preseason game without our starting wide receivers. You know, and I actually think we did a couple decent things, you know, despite all that. It was definitely a frustrating game to watch, but there was some things, you know, just like a first preseason game, you know, there's some things that could be taken away. Some of the good things. Number one good thing, our backfield is stupid.
True.
Dude,
very true.
Mostert is, you know, out there doing his thing. It's his first start. You know, people keep forgetting he wasn't our starter last season. He seemed like it towards the end of the season. Even then, he wasn't starting.
Right.
Mostert's a legit number one. McKinnon's back on the field for the first time. He's catching balls. He's running balls. We know what Tevin Coleman can do. It's crazy. And here's another thing I noticed. He's worked on his catching game and his route running.
He has. He
Mostert can catch the ball now.
Yes, he can.
Everybody kept saying we needed McKinnon or we needed somebody else in there that runs better routes that can catch the ball, right? So he caught 4 balls. He was out there running routes and catching balls. And so that just means that we're 3 deep at running back that can catch the ball and a fullback that can catch the ball. Yeah. And, you know, genius offensive coordinator working with all that.
Yep.
2 tight ends now, too. So that's huge. Number 2, 8 players caught balls. So even in a game where, and it was still obvious that we were missing our top talent. Right. It's obvious that I think, you know, towards the end of training camp, Garoppolo got very comfortable with Debo and Ayuk, and I can't wait to see them out there together. It's going to be ridiculous. But even without our top talent, and it was noticeable, we still spread the ball around. That's what we're going to do. We're going to keep people guessing. We don't need a Julio Jones, you know, a Hopkins. I'm not saying it wouldn't be nice to have him. Right. And I'm not saying that Debo and Ayuk can't turn into that. Sure. But what I'm saying is the way this offense works, we're going to spread the ball around. We have lots of playmakers. You know, Shanahan loves to have playmakers. And even in the game like that where things look really discombobulated and we didn't have all of our, you know, people out there, we had our third string center, we still got the ball out to 8 different people. So in a game where Garoppolo was a little hesitant, held on the ball a little too long, you know, on several plays, he still spread the ball out, and that was good to see. Yeah, that's the offense. You know, that's how we're going to, you know, get through injuries and you know, lulls. You know, when somebody locks down certain people, is the fact that we can go to anybody. We have a lot of people. Right. On the bad side, QB containment. You know, and this is something. This isn't just a preseason, you know, kind of thing. You know. This is something that keeps showing up, and we've got to get it fixed because, you know, we've got 2 of the best mobile quarterbacks in our division. You know, and I will say, you know, we actually looked pretty decent in the first half. We put some pressure on them. We looked, you know, and we started getting undisciplined, you know, in the second half, and he just started going off. And look, he's going to do that all season to every team. You know, it's hard, but we've got to contain him, right? We've got to. And he's going to make a lot of people look, you know, stupid during the season, but he just got too loose. And we started getting too undisciplined, and we're trying too hard, you know, to get in the backfield and just, you know, too much happened because of that. And that's something, you know, we've got to stay disciplined. So I think that's a combination of something we need to work on, mixed with, I think it looked worse than it was because, he's really good at it. And, and we were getting some bad penalties when we were hitting him and stuff like that. Like, if you look back at that game, there were a lot of times where he looked like he was scrambling, and maybe we didn't actually hit him, but he slid at the line of scrimmage.
Right.
So it looks like maybe he was doing something when he really didn't. But at the end of the day, he got 90 yards.
Right.
So, and that's what we really broke loose in the second half. So, again, that's, I think, partially something we've got to work on, partially no preseason, and we kind of broke loose on that one. But it's definitely something we got to work on. QB containment's huge. And then this is kind of a two-parter. So my second bad thing was just, like, DeAndre just ate our lunch and our dinner and second breakfast.
Yeah.
Dinner, supper, all that. But the funny thing was watching that game, like, our secondary didn't play that bad. That's the funky thing. Sometimes somebody just gets off. And there was some mental errors. There was some reasons for that. Some of it was, trying to contain Kyler and him getting open.
Sure.
And DeAndre getting open late. And some of it was just, Mosley, as much as I love him, he's a smaller dude, and some of it was on Sherm. There was a little bit of everything, but sometimes you just can't explain it. It would be one thing, like, again, rewatching that game, there would be one thing if our secondary just fell apart. But if you look at the stat sheet, nobody else ate. And when your secondary falls apart and they're having a bad game, everybody eats.
Right.
It was just DeAndre. So that's a negative for sure. Dude went off. But it's not a super negative because, again, it's hard to say that when somebody goes off like that. But really, I felt our secondary actually played pretty solid football.
Sure.
Pretty sound football. Just that one dude went off. So it's a bad, but it's not as bad as it could have been.
Right.
I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Right.
But that's it. So that's my 4 for game 1. Game 2 is devastating, right? I think that's the only way to really in a win. It's the only way to explain it. It was devastating. That was coming in shorthanded.
Right.
And to have the people go down that went down, to have, to watch Jimmy limping around for his life. And I do feel they should have pulled him earlier. I would have liked to see it. It was so obvious every single play.
Right.
Even if they just kind of pushed him, it was hop along Cassidy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
We're talking about not just this season, but, seasons to come. And we do have a big goal this season. So I would have liked to, and I know that's a hard one. Right. That's a hard one. I'm not being like, you fucked up. You know what I mean? But just my personal feeling was a little before, halftime. I get to the half, pull and see what's going on. But I would have liked to see him, especially with the lead and everything we were doing and as hobbled as he was. I would like to see him get pulled a little sooner. But, yeah, that game overall was devastating, although I will say that Jimmy did look a lot more decisive. We've all heard it. He said it. Shanahan's backed it up. Dude, wakes up after getting hit. You know what I mean? I don't know if you caught it or not, but Shanahan actually made a joke. He said, well, next time we'll hit you with the bat on the way out.
Right. Yeah. Get you ready. Yeah.
But he does. There's something about, waking his ass up, and getting him. But and I don't think it was just that. It wasn't after. People are trying to say that, oh, yeah, once he got that hit, his ankle, he looked more decisive in that game overall than he did in the first game. I don't know what all that was, and he definitely did look more decisive. And some of that survival instinct too, right? Sure. You got to get rid of that ball because you can't get hit.
Right.
But he just plays better when he's like that. When he gets the ball in the hand, good things happen.
Yep.
Number 2. Oh, sorry, that was just overall. So number 1, and I kind of said this the first game, but Mostert is true number 1.
Yeah, he sure the hell is.
That dude's a number 1 running back, RB1 for our team, for any team he goes on. That dude's legit.
Yeah.
He's not, a secondary player. He's not a third down back. He's not just speed. He's really put in the work. He's put on some weight, put on some strength.
Especially since you mentioned that he's worked on his hands. That's the big thing too.
Yeah, huge. So true number 1, true 3-down back. And McKinnon's back. I mean, sometimes, you're finally healthy and maybe, you catch the ball, you do a couple things in the first game, but he had some carries. Yeah. And he had some catches. And he looked good. When we were backed up, like that
55-yard run.
That one that got pulled back, like we were in there's not a lot of running backs, I don't care how good your line is, that get out of that situation twice.
Right.
He got us out of that situation twice because the first game got pulled back. He's legit. So like I said after the first game, I'm saying even more so after the second game, even though we're a little dinged up, our backfield's stupid.
Yeah.
We're so deep, and that's not counting Jeff Wilson Jr., who could step in anytime, catch the ball, run the ball. I'd love to see Juice get more carries. He got a nice carry for 7 yards in this game.
Yeah, that's a good
I've
call.
always said I'd like to see him get more carries. Goal line, short yardage. He's good enough to do that, and he should get more of those. But the running backs room is stupid. Number 2, welcome to the 49er, Jordan Reed. Oh my God! Stay healthy, brother. He looked
Absolutely.
Good. He looked decent in the first game. Kittle went down, and he came in and was like, "Oh, don't forget about me. I'm a number 1 tight end.
Mm-hmm.
When healthy."
Mm-hmm.
Right now he's healthy. I think we talked about this before. I would love to, obviously with him and Kittle, very unstoppable, but you could still kind of, like you were saying, and the last thing we talked about with McKinnon, don't put him back there to return, punts. We're easing him into the season. He's been out for 2 seasons, right? Same thing with Jordan. You lost a season. I would love, Kittle's the guy, and let's sprinkle Jordan in, but as need be, and he's shown that with Kittle out, he's a true number 1. He's still got that wiggle. He's hands, dude.
Oh, yeah, hands. That boy's got hands.
Those touchdowns, you know the one I'm talking about.
Yep.
That was all hands because he wasn't open.
Nope.
Welcome, Jordan Reed. Stay healthy.
Yeah.
The 2 of you, and Kittle come back healthy. I want to see a lot of both of y'all. We talked about this, the possibility. You and I talked about this when they first picked him up.
Yeah.
Was I was just seeing if he stays healthy and they could play together for a little while,
2 tight end sets.
I haven't seen this since freaking Gronk and Hernandez, dude.
Right.
They were about to take over the league before shit went down.
Yeah.
I can see that happening with these 2, so that's awesome. Bad attrition, right? Jesus.
Yeah.
Again, we came in shorthanded. We lost a bunch. Nick Bosa gone for the season. That's the biggest loss.
Yeah.
Especially with D Ford in and out of the lineup like he was last year and so far this year too.
Yeah.
That's huge.
That makes it even
if
worse.
you had 2 bookends that were constant and you lost one, it's still huge, but it's we don't know what's going on with D either. So to have Nick Bosa for sure gone, and then if D's coming in and out, we need to figure something out. I think we will, but that's huge. That was bad from this game. Number 2, this is kind of a in my book, this is kind of a good and a bad thing. I'm putting it under the bad, but it's a good and bad thing in my book. I think you're going to agree with me, Malik. But the Dante Pettis experiment is officially over. It's
Do you
over.
think it's official, though?
It's got to be.
I hope so.
It's got to be. Well, look, Sanu barely passed COVID and didn't practice at all, and he was out there. Pettis didn't get a snap. And
The writing's got to be on the wall.
Well, look. I think it was official after the first game, but I didn't know until I watched this game. Dude didn't get a snap. Right, so after the first game, he was the lowest rated wide receiver in football in that first game, and that was his time to shine. He finally kind of, came into the offseason, talked to Shanahan. Hey, I want to be a man, right? I want to do that. I grew balls in the offseason, whatever you want to call it.
I grew some balls, coach.
Look. And then, he did a couple things in the training camp. You started hearing about him. And look, me, I'm forever an optimist.
Right.
I would love for him to have shown up and been put on some weight and grew some balls, and did what he had to do. And then he had no better opportunity than after having a good offseason to be like, oh, guess what? We need you to be our number 1, our number 2 wide receiver for this game. Go do it.
Yeah.
Go do it.
And he didn't do shit.
Didn't catch a single ball. And, and he had a ball that was not a great throw from Jimmy. Right. But he could have went after it and could have caught it and didn't.
Agreed.
He didn't block well. He didn't get open well. He didn't do anything.
And we even talked about who Jerry might have been talking about when he was irritated at the receiver's body language on the sideline during the game, cats dancing and shit like that in a loss. He was like, that's not Niner football. I think that was Pettis the whole way. I'm sorry. I think that was 1-8 the whole way.
I had a bad feeling from the moment he caught a touchdown and started cleaning himself like a cat.
Started licking his paws.
Willing to overlay. Wide receivers do some crazy shit, you know what I mean? And if you're talented, do what you want.
Hey.
But you got to back it up.
No, I agree. And I've been kind of over it for a minute. So I'm just waiting to see why he's still – granted, we got to have bodies. to be able to officially play on a Sunday. So maybe
that's
that's
pretty
why
much
they're
it.
holding him. But
That's pretty much it because he didn't get a snap.
yeah,
And we're light.
yeah.
That's me. That's my 2 games. That's how I felt about him. What you got, Malik?
Okay, so as far as how I felt about the games, real quick and fast, week 1 scared the hell out of me. I was not happy. I had a headache after the game. It just reminded me of last year's game and our difficulty wrangling and, to your earlier point, containing mobile quarterbacks. We didn't look like we had improved at all. And leading up to that game, all of the conversation from the defensive side was that's something we focused on. We're much better prepared to handle mobile quarterbacks. And then Kyler fucking went off. So, and then force feeding DeAndre, the fact that we had, a number 1 who was matched up against E-Man, and he had a field day, almost a career day. So against Sherman too, he was all over, but he kind of went off. So to your earlier point, week 1 was not a good game to me. I felt like it did have a preseason feel, but we came in, it looked like unprepared, unmotivated. It didn't look like the, Super Bowl, team, the team that just had gone to the Super Bowl. It didn't look like that at all. The revenge tour seemed like it was way, way behind us. So then for week 2,
not having a hangover.
Right. And so then for week 2, aside from all the injuries, which is a big, big negative, the way that the offense moved looked a little bit more like mid-season Niner football. The balance, the ball getting distributed, coming out faster. It seemed like we stuck more to a plan. The plan was good and we were executing it, and we were just kind of moving the ball at will. I'm not going to factor in the opponent because I want to hang on to the good.
In my mind, I was just going to drop that in there.
I want to hang on to the good, Chappie. So it just felt better. It felt like a step in the right direction. All right. So I'm going to break down my 4 points split between both week 1 and week 2. Okay. So I'm going to start with the good. So my 2 points for the good. Week 2, the run defense looked better. Okay. I believe that we held the Jets to 108 yards. Frank Gore, 2-1, that's our guy, right? I'm so glad that he's going to retire a Niner. He's a Niner at heart. That's Franklin, right? And so, even though he's 78 years old, you still expect on any given Sunday that man is going.
We drafted him in the 1930.
Right. You're going to expect that he's going to get goal line carries, so he's going to get some scores there, and he's going to get some hard-earned yardage. We kind of held him in check. I think he had 75 yards, something like that. So run defense, I feel, was, a little closer to what we expect from our Niner defense and from that front seven. Found gems, Jordan Reed and Brandon Ayuk. Small sampling size from Brandon, but you could see the athleticism in the couple of plays that he had. Jordan Reed showing out. Bro, when healthy, that's the caveat. When healthy, you got a chance to see why this cat was so, was such a beast in Washington before all the injuries just kind of just wreck shop on his body. But when on the field, the cat is really, 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 really a high-end tight end. So again, to your earlier point, I look forward to seeing he and Kittle, bookended off of each other, 2 tight end sets, and just all the creativity that Kyle's going to be able to throw in there. So that's the good. Those are the 2. The good side.
Sweep for Debo and Ayuk while Reed and Kittle.
Man, it's going to be a nightmare for defenses. So, on the good side, those are the 2. On the bad side, kind of echoing something that you said again, Jimmy holding the ball too long, man. I don't know if this is early season Jimmy. He needs to kind of maybe get hit, or maybe he needs a couple of games just to kind of get his juices going, get into the thick of it and get ready. Again, no preseason, so that's kind of tough. These first few games are going to be essentially like preseason, but they count. But holding the ball too long, the offense doesn't work when that ball's not coming out. And it's not always his fault. Maybe the wide receivers weren't getting separation. We didn't have Debo. We didn't have George. So I get it, but still, when we did move the ball, game 2, week 2, when we did move the ball and we scored, it was when that ball was coming right out of his hands. So, we'll get there. My second bad, I want to see more production out of the wide receivers. I need to see it. Again, I understand that Debo's not there. I understand that, tight end / wide receiver George Kittle's not there. We've talked about the gravity that he provides to a field as far as the defensive focus. But still, man, next player up. These guys that we've all talked, that you and I have talked about over the offseason, Kendrick Bourne, Trent Taylor, Trent Taylor, we were so juiced. Where's Trent? I don't see him. So not to the extent that we expected to see, We didn't expect that there were going to be any third down conversion issues with Trent, with George, with McKinnon, so I need to see more production out of the wide receiver room. The talent is there. Maybe the chemistry just needs a little bit more time. Again, we also, we don't have our starting, offensive line up there. Yeah, we don't have the top receivers up there. So we're dealing with some injuries, but, I need to see some more production out of that wide receiver room. So those are my, too good, too bad. Real quick, I want to jump into something real quick that, as I started diving into the numbers, made me feel a little bit better. So kind of a don't trip, but not necessarily. So breaking down the first 2 games of 2020, comparing them to the first 2 games of 2019, just from my eye test, I felt like there was a huge discrepancy in the efficiency and the productivity between last year and this year. I do remember 2019, we had to kind of ramp up and get up to speed. Right. First few games weren't really firing on all cylinders. And it felt like that's kind of where we're going, in 2020. Yeah. But then when I dove into the numbers, yes, there's a deficiency, but it's not nearly as wide as I thought. So 2019, if we break down passing yards per game, 235 passing yards per game average versus 210 this year. Okay. So 25 yards, a couple first downs, not huge, right? Rushing yards, 179 last year to 152 this year. Okay. So again, low discrepancy. This was the biggest one for me. So we're getting into the 2 big ones. So points per game. Our offense, last year, 36 points per game. This year, 26 points per game. Okay, we're just talking 2 games, but still.
We just had a 30-point game.
So
36 per in the first 2 last year?
36 in the first 2 last year, Chappie. Let's go. The offense was going. Tampa Bay, and then 50, who was
we dropped 50 on Carolina.
Something like that. It was ridiculous. But we just kind of took off, right?
That's an outlier.
So then, dive it a little further. First downs. How is your offense moving? What's the efficiency? Are you moving the chains? So 2019, game 1, we had 17 first downs. Game 2, we had 27. Okay? So we're starting to move in the right direction. Okay? 2020, week 1, 18 first downs. Week 2, 17 first downs. Right? So that in and of itself is a huge indicator as far as how efficient your offense is moving. Are you punting that ball all game long, or, settling for field goals, or what's really going on? And then the last, kind of statistic that I thought was telling was, so the difference on defense. So last year, points per game, allowed defense, 17. This year, 19, average. Okay? So not a huge difference. Not a huge difference. To your earlier point, defense, even with all the losses, it's not terrible, right? Turnovers that the defense is creating, Chappie. Last year, 5 by week 2. Now, granted, in week 1, we played against the Tampa Bay. Jameis Winston, he's the defense's best quarterback. That motherfucker gave us the ball all game. I'm saying, he don't know what jersey he throwing to. Just let me get this motherfucker out.
Open.
But still, we got those turnovers. They didn't bounce off the defender's hands. We capitalized. We created turnovers. We had 5 last year. This year, just 1 so far. Those are opportunities for the offense to do something. You might get
50 on Carolina.
Exactly. You might get really good field position. You might, be wearing down their defense, whatever it is. So comparison between 2019 and 2020, only 2 weeks, but still you see some differences. You definitely see some areas of opportunity, for improvement. Right. And I know, that our coaches are going to dive in and figure it all out, but it's hard with the injuries. They're tested in ways that,
the preseason issues, all that.
I mean, this is classic 2020 football right here.
It really is. Yeah,
right?
Anything can happen.
So, yep. So those are my pieces. Those are my, my takeaways and my differences, my recap of week 1 and 2. I think both of us are pointing out a lot of similarities, a lot of the same glaring things that need to be addressed.
Right. Which is a good thing. I mean, when they're a little more obvious, they're a little more easy to, pinpoint and work on. And I think some of it is is what it is stuff, right?
Right.
Like not having our top 2 wide receivers to start the season, and even second game having Ayuk, he's still a rookie. It was still his first game. He's still coming off a hamstring injury. He hasn't practiced in weeks.
Right.
I mean, that's why I do like I still feel positive about the way everything's lining up.
Agreed.
A couple softer games to start the season, get everybody in there, get everybody healthy, to when we really start hitting that, hard part. Get a couple new cats in here, hopefully develop some kind of pass rush.
Yeah.
Give Salah a little time to maybe develop a few more blitzes in his playbook because he doesn't have to do that very often the way the team's built.
True.
I think there's a lot of things, a lot of positive could be taken just of happenstance.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Again, going back to the 3-week IR has been huge for us this year.
It will be.
Yeah. If it's not 2020 and we don't have this COVID-19, like our season's over.
That's true.
Think about it. Think about how many people are back. You can't bring them all back. You're not allowed to.
Right.
And even if you can, it's 6 weeks in.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like our season's over.
Yeah.
The way it is right now, we're going to get some cats healthy, at a good time early in the season. Also just like, the silver lining always, especially when you're a deeper team, when people start getting injured, especially kind of lighter injuries, a week or 2, is cats get to come up and get some time, get some real football in them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Look at Hyder. We keep talking about, he's getting that real football time.
Yeah.
A couple cats are going to come in and get some of that. It can only, hopefully, all comes out positive, in the watch. I do want to throw a little bonus thing out there because I didn't talk about Frank. You didn't talk about Frank. And I just want to say, I was thinking about this when I was watching the game. And it's like, this was probably the first time in real life that I had a fantasy football moment in real life. And what I mean by that is, playing against Frank Gore, to me, it was like playing against a team that's got one of your fantasy players on it.
Yeah.
Right? You want that team to play horribly and you want us to shut them down, but you want that one player to kind of go off and get you those points, right? I think that was the first time outside of fantasy that I felt like that in real life, where I was like, you know what? If Frank did 120 and got 2 touchdowns, but we still whipped their ass, I wouldn't have been mad.
Absolutely.
It was the first time I think in my life where like I've seen him do his sideways lean in, couple more yards, busting out of the crowd, where I was like, ugh. It felt weird, you know what I mean? But it was, God, I love that dude.
I love Frank.
It was interesting. It was interesting.
And
I
I'm
still got 2 jerseys sitting in my closet. The moment he retires, they come out of retirement.
See, and I'm super torn because I have Frank on my fantasy team. I picked him up late rounds. Yep.
Yeah.
And I actually toyed with the idea of putting him in just, for sentimental value, but then also I was like, I'm not really sure how strong Kinlaw is going to be.
Right.
Maybe he can be their goal line guy and I can get some
Right.
goal line touches there. Maybe get a couple cheap, points. So I actually, up until like Thursday, I toyed with putting Frank as one of my flex guys, just so that I could root for Frank. Because like you said, man, we always rooting for Frank. 2-1 is always going to have a place in our hearts. Swear. In the man cave, there's the 2-1 jersey, up on the wall. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, man. I love the fact that he came out, earlier in the week and was like, I'm definitely going to retire a Niner.
Right.
Niner always in my heart, and that's the way it should be.
Yeah. Love it.
Yep.
Love it. All right. Mahalo. Aloha. I'll be back soon. Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe.
Keep watching Niner football.
Niner faithful. Hey, shouts out real quick to the lady at Whole Foods earlier today that wanted to sit with me and talk a little bit about Niners, and she needed a little don't trip therapy because she was nervous about Bosa and Solomon Thomas. She was breaking it down. She's about 55 years old.
And her and I both.
Niner lover, so faithful. Yeah. So shouts out to Whole Foods in Kahala.
Spread the love.
Yeah, spread the love, y'all.